Hi sewing friends, I'm Christine and I used to teach Shakespeare until I discovered the sewing machine, and I am here to tell you it's easier than you think. So this video that I'm uploading here for you is a request that I got on my Facebook page for instructions on sewing a neat V-neck into a t-shirt. This is something that sewers struggle with quite often. So if you have any requests for content and for videos, you can like my page, follow me on Facebook, Confused to Creative Sewing with Christine, and you can just leave a comment on any of my posts asking for advice, and I'll see if I have a video that I can upload for you. So if you are not a fan of V-necks, what I can tell you from my little bit of knowledge, I'm not a stylist, but the little bit of knowledge that I do have around it is that it is a very flattering style. It's very flattering because it draws the eye up to your face, and it's very easy to wear, and it's actually easier to sew than you think. So none of that weird pivoting, turning, and all of those things. I'm going to teach you my exact, precise 10-step method to get your V-neck right.
Now that you're done with your front and your back and you've ironed your shoulder seams, we're not going to sew the sleeves on yet. We're first going to finish the neckband. So this is the V-neck, of course, that I'm showing you, and there's a different video for the crew neck and for a binding, but this is the V-neck band that I'm showing you. So the most important thing when sewing a V-neck is that you need to mark your seam allowance. So first I'm going to mark the seam allowance, and when marking the seam allowance, it's very important to find, there we go, if I open it up, to find the point where the seam allowance will line up in the middle. So you're going to mark down and extend that line, and then mark up or mark down from this side as well and extend that line, because your seam allowance is 1.5 centimeters, 5/8 of an inch, but it won't be 5/8 of an inch from that center point. It will be further down. So this is the important part, or the trick to sewing a perfect V neckline. Once you've done that and you've cut your V neckband, I'm a firm believer in always measuring and always cutting your own neckband. And the reason is just that not all fabric is created equal. So if I give you one neckband pattern and you use a different type of fabric, you may need to draft your own neckband anyway. So now what you want is once you've drawn your neckband piece, I like to make mine a cut on the fold. There's a measurements table. You want to create this V in front. And to do that, just place this neckband pattern piece underneath your blouse, nice and straight. There you go. And you just want to align that corner there and the center. Hang on, easier perhaps to fold it. There's our center, and you want to align the center of the V. There you go, and just draw that V in, because this is what you're going to use on your neckband itself. And you're actually going to mark, you can cut that out. You're going to mark this on your neckband. When cutting a knit neckband, you may hear all sorts of stories that you need to cut this band on the bias. Now, the bias of knit fabric does not exist. It is, if you had cut this on the bias, you would have weakened this neckband so much, and it would just stretch out and it would start flopping off of your top. So you always cut your neckband so the greatest amount of stretch goes around your neck. So the greatest amount of stretch is this direction. There you can see my little knit lines on the fabric, and it's stretching. There we go. Your next step is to mark the V on your neckband ends, on both ends of your neckband, because you're going to stitch that V to keep it nicely in place. I'm going to mark that using my marker. Don't cut it out, just mark. Specifically, that center point is the most important because you're going to sew up to that center. You are now going to sew, so you're going to fold this neckband, these two pieces that you've marked, on each other, and you're going to use just a basting stitch, because you have to open it up again to sew these two pieces together. So I like to just pin them together. Don't need to be precise yet. It's just that I want them to lay nicely on top of each other. And using just a basting stitch, about 3.5, 4 length straight stitch, you're going to sew on that line, and that's just going to hold everything together for you. Once you have sewn the stay stitching, you can see it's quite loose because you're going to remove it in a bit. You are going to mark your seam allowance again, because as you can remember, on the V of your blouse, you've marked the seam allowance, and the key really is to match the seam allowances, because this is where you're going to sew this together. Now you're going to sew this V over here using a normal straight stitch, no zigzag stitch or anything like that, just a normal straight stitch around about 2.8 length I like. You'll have to see depending on your fabric. And then you can remove these basting stitches, and you're going to cut this V line out, and then we're going to fold it all flat. You're now going to cut this first V out. So you're just going to cut on the basting stitches, and then you're going to fold everything onto each other and iron it flat. Next, you're going to take your t-shirt and you're going to sew a stay stitch just about 2 millimeters up from this line you've marked. And if you're afraid it will stretch out or you won't manage it, you can always put a tissue underneath and it will just keep your fabric in place. You don't actually need to. I never actually do, but it's an option if you're struggling with stretchy fabric. Once you've sewn your stay stitch, you're going to clip only up to the stay stitching. You're not going to clip up to the seam allowance line. So there's my stay stitch, and there's my seam allowance line. You're just going to clip up to the stay stitch, and this is what creates that tiny little fold of the neckband that goes in so that you don't have a gap over there. Now you are ready to match the seam allowance you marked on your V-neck. There you marked your seam allowance right through. You're going to match it to that V over there. And you're actually going to pin it down. That's why I've got so many pins all over the place. Just pin it in line there. And then turn your band up and pin it to the blouse over there. Same on the other side. I know it feels messy now. You're going to see how much easier this is once you've started sewing. And now you can start. Now your band's turned down like that, and you're going to start on this side and you're going to sew on your seam allowance. You're going to sew right up to that point. You're going to turn and sew right back to this point, and when you turn everything right way out, it's going to have this lovely perfect V in the middle. And there you have it. There's now the inside. We're not finished with the band yet. So that's what the inside looks like. And when you turn it out, it's still loose here on the sides. But there you can see you've got a nice little V there. All I need to do is I need to give this a good press. So now with the V attached, I haven't even ironed mine yet, but only the V is now attached. You're going to mark the center point of your neckband at the top, as well as the midpoint of these from where you've sewn it on there. I'm just folding it in to mark it. And there's the one on the other side. And then you're now going to match it up to the quarter points on the rest of your neckline. So there's the center point of your neckline, and if you pull this open, you'll find the 2 quarter points over there. Now your quarter points are not your shoulder seams. Look, there's my shoulder seam. Quarter point is not your shoulder seam. So mark your quarter points and then match those points to them and just clip them on or pin them on, and then you're going to attach them. And as you sew, you're going to stretch this upper band. You're going to stretch as you sew, and it'll hold your neckline nice and neatly.
And there you have it, the perfect v-neck. I hope this was helpful. If you've sewn a v-neck, let me know. Leave a comment, ask questions, or you can come and follow me on my socials on Facebook, Confused to Creative Sewing with Christine, or even in my public Facebook group, Confused to Creative Sewing Tips and Courses. I've put the links below, and if there's anything else you'd like to learn, just let me know and I'll see if I can help.